I'm going to tell you a little secret in a moment. You won't get angry at me, but I will still tell it to you. Surely that day will be a day of anguish. That's the day of judgment, and previously he said it was a day of a painful doom. Yeah, raging. I forgot to put a painful doom. All these are related. Here, he says that day will be a day of anguish. Same as a painful doom. Day of anguish. Painful doom. So that's the judgment day again. Not of ease for disbelievers. Now wait a minute. I thought I'd tell you a little secret. I know you don't like to hear about other religions, but this is a religious studies department, so I'll tell you about them. And those who are not believers in the class don't mind, but those who are do. But I warned you that in the beginning. I'm not going to worry about whether you like it or not. We're just going to go ahead and teach what things seem relevant. What seems to be relevant. You know, this is the season that the Jews celebrate the so-called New Year. What they call, and there are Jews involved in this, so there's no reason we can't speak about that. We're not worried about modern political problems. That's not our problem. That's modern politicians' problems. Rosh Hashanah, which means the head of the year, or the beginning of the year. It isn't really the head of the year because it's the 7th month. It's the first day of the 7th month. And if you look in the Old Testament, you'll see it says the first day of the 7th month, that's a holy day. On that day you shall do no work, you shall rest. That's coming up, by the way, next Thursday, or next Tuesday, I think. I don't know what day, but next week sometime. Big problem for those people who think they should observe what the Old Testament tells them to do in terms of classes and things. We'll see about that kind of stuff later. But no one really knew the meaning of what this first day of the 7th month was. They call it the New Year because they start the prayer cycle, the reading cycle from the Bible anew every year at that time. It was in the temple, the time that the priests began to, the whole cycle of reading started over again. In fact, it accords with our beginning of our school year, pretty normal, and that's basically why it's called the New Year, but it isn't really the New Year. It's the 7th month, first day. 7 is a very important number for biblical people, and in the Bible it's always a very holy number, and we can talk about that sometime if we have time. But what the spin that the Jews put on it was the judgment day. That it was the judgment day. And you know, on those series of holidays in the 7th month, there are 3 of them, because it's a holy month for the Jews, the same as Ramadan. The 8th month is a holy month for Muslims. The Jews have the 7th month basically as a holy month. The first day starts, then they prepare themselves. The 10th day is the Day of Atonement, where they all fast to get their sins, and then they have that later festival, Tabernacles as Christians refer to it, where it commemorates the giving of the Torah to Moses in the Sinai. Okay, so it's a holy month, the same as Ramadan commemorates the giving of the Quran to the Prophet and so on in the 8th month. These things have just been basically revised, transferred, but more or less the same. But what do the Jews say that this first day of the first month, 7th month is? What? They blow a horn on that day. What do they call that horn? The shofar. They blow this ram's horn. Of course, it was before modern trumpets and things, so they used to use horns. I mean, in the Bhagavad Gita that we're reading in another class, they blow conch shells, you know, whatever you can blow. Then they blew ram's horns because that made a noise, and it was like a horn. And what are they doing? They're preparing for the judgment day. That's why they have the Day of Atonement later on. It's the horn, it's the trumpet, it's the ram's horn being blown for the judgment day. That's exactly what he's talking about here. Exactly what he's talking about here. In the view of all these ancient texts, there was a trumpet to be blown. That's why the Jews are blowing the ram's horn. They're not blowing the ram's horn because they like blowing ram's horns. They're blowing the ram's horn in imitation of the call to the judgment day. And that's what he's talking about here. The trumpet shall sound, and surely that day will be a day of... He knows all the ideology of the trumpet sounding, of the horn being blown, and so on, to greet the coming of the judgment day, so that the graves will open and the dead will rise and then be judged and so on, and some will go to heaven and some will go to hell, and whatever the ideology was. All that he understands, he knows, or the angel knows, or someone has taught him, or the angel has taught him. So I just want to show you the parallel with where we are today in the present calendar, because I'm sure you're hearing about this in the news to some extent at the moment, and it's the judgment day. What this Rosh Hashanah is the prelude to the judgment day, which is why, that's how they've interpreted it, and that's why they blow the trumpet or the ram's horn.